All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I'm joined by.
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder of Movers Shakers Unlimited. How's everything, man? You're liking this mic? I'm copying you. I'm copying
Yeah,
you with
man.
your mic.
I see you. I see
Hey,
you.
Cage.
I see you. I see you. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I said, wherever you guys are watching from, hopefully you are enjoying your weekend. I know, like here in the East Coast, we are dealing very much with a heat wave, which is to be expected in the month of July/August. A lot of times between those 2 months, we see our greatest heat. So we are powering through. But despite the fact that it is that it is on certain days, quite unbearable, I still enjoy what comes with that, which is not only our cons, which we will get into later on today, but also other things. We have fairs and amusement parks and all these other pastimes that we can enjoy over the summer. Now, as you know, every Saturday we like to get into like the news bits that have made the rounds in the entertainment industry, in our show known as, or our series known as, This Week in Review. Before we get into some of the news stories, just a couple of reminders, some minutes, if you will. Just know that even though you can enjoy our show live, that you can, if you're enjoying the show after the fact as an archive episode, that you can also be a part of the conversation with our hashtag, which is TWNRMNSU. So that's This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And then also, if you enjoy much of our content that we have, you can also be a Patreon supporter. So let me put that link up as well. So we have a Patreon as well that you can enjoy. We do have some cool perks that you can take advantage of. So make sure that you check out that link if you want to support a lot of the content that we produce here at Movers and Shakers Unlimited. So with that being said, Jerome, we have a jammed packed episode. There were a lot of things that went down this week. I guess I'll start first. Hate to do it this way, but we'll start first on a little bit of a somber note. We did have the passing of Biz Marquis. Actually, just recently, yesterday, that we found out that he had passed away at the age of 57. Unfortunately, according to the story, due to complications with diabetes. So, what are your thoughts on his work, his body of work, and to lose him this week?
Yeah. Also, thanks for joining us for our 22nd episode. So,
Indeed,
going strong.
indeed.
So, but yeah, it's really sad because I mean, he was a hip hop icon, one of the pioneers, basically you could say. He didn't necessarily invent beatboxing, but he was one of the most visible beatboxers in hip hop to really perfect the art form and like, show, that side of hip hop. And of course, like he worked with, tons of legends back in the day, Roxanne Shante, he was part of the Juice Crew. I know he was really tight with Big Daddy Kane because Big Daddy Kane was talking about, his status and that he did have health problems, but he didn't pass. So I know there were some rumors. People like falsely reported that he died earlier, and I think weeks ago or something, and that was obviously false. But yeah, I mean it's obviously sad, because I think he had complications with diabetes. But yeah, I mean it's just sad to like lose someone at that age too, because I mean 57 is still pretty young. I mean, he's the fourth hip hop like icon, and or slash artist or just impactful person in the industry that we lost this year. I mean, with with DMX, Black Rob, Shock G, and then now Biz Marquis. So, yeah, I mean, it's just sad how someone like that is passed away. He was so talented and important to such an amazing art form. And I hope some people start beatboxing now. Can bring that back, because I mean, it's basically Biz Marquis. Was it Razel? I think with when he was with the Roots, and then was it Dougie Fresh? Those are like some of the key guys who who beatbox and who really made it popular and famous. But you don't really see that as much now. So it'd be interesting to see that come back. Maybe people could do that in his honor. But
Definitely.
yeah, it's a sad story.
For sure. And it's just thinking of, as I said, his body of work of songs that he has done and how iconic just that song that a lot of people don't know, Just a Friend. Man, that plays everywhere. It doesn't matter what setting you're in, people know that song. As soon as that dun 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 dun, like just that beat, just to start the song, it brings a smile on anyone's face, and thinking of the verses of that song, and maybe where you were when you heard it the first time. And as I said just then, is it plays all the time. I mean, I've heard it if I've gone to weddings, like it's played at weddings, it plays at cookouts, it plays everywhere. Like it's a universal song that a lot of people enjoy, and brings a smile to a lot of people's faces. So and to have a song like that, and to have something that speaks to people on a universal level like that, there's something to be said about that. So
yeah, and I remember like 50 Cent, he remade that song, or he sampled some of it for that song on the soundtrack to Get Rich or Die Trying. It was called Best Friend. And it's like, it just shows the impact. I mean, how it's so classic, and he with the Vapors, and he has all these other songs. I mean,
for sure.
But yeah, I mean, for that era, like he was an icon. Like he was his own person. He had his own personality. He was unique. Like that was the time in hip hop where people really made an effort to be different and not try to copy. And it's like, if you try to copy, and you're pretty much whack, like just trying to copy everyone else. So I hope people also like can look back, some of this newer generation can look back and be like, hey, look at those guys back in the day. They did their own thing. They weren't just trying to be like everyone else. So, but that's definitely part of his legacy. And he'll sorely be missed. All the great artists in hip hop, like they obviously, they take their hat off to him, and they look up to him, and he had an impact on all these, any of your favorite rappers, or your rappers, rappers' favorite rappers. They were definitely influenced by Biz Markie. So rest in peace, Biz.
Rest in peace, rest in power, indeed. So the next story that we have, as I said, sorry to start it off on a slightly somber note, but to switch gears a bit, we received the news this week that Cedric the Entertainer will be hosting the 2021 Emmys. So let me bring that story up. But yes, in a story out of the Hollywood Reporter, they dropped the news that the King of Comedy himself will be a part of the Emmys for CBS, and as I said, he will be hosting it. As you guys know, prior it was heavily done in a virtual capacity. I mean, it's still going to be, according to the story, done somewhat in that way as well, where there's only going to be a relatively small amount of guests that will be there in person, but there still will be a virtual component to it. It's going to take place on September 19th, according to our story, in downtown LA. So you hear this news of having Cedric the Entertainer get announced as the host of the 2021 Primetime Emmys, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, also they're switching up. Usually it's on, I guess, like ABC, and now it's on CBS. That was kind of different. But yeah. I always think the Emmys, I'll give them credit because they seem to usually have a host, and it's usually pretty fun. I mean, I kind of missed the one last year. I didn't really check it out as much because I know it was different with the virtual part way of doing it. But yeah, I mean, if they're starting to get back to trying to do it somewhat normally, that'll be interesting too. And Cedric, I mean, he's funny. He's a comedian. He's great. He's one of the kings of comedy. He's up there. He has his own. He's been in so many movies and shows, and he's really talented. So I think he could definitely add his flavor to it and make it interesting. I feel like that's that's what makes like these award shows really great. Like if you have a really good host, otherwise your show has to be, you're going to have a lot of mini hosts or just really interesting, performances or just, interludes or just little segments that have to be really well thought out. So I know the Oscars kind of got away from that. And even though the Oscars have been decent, but it does make you wonder, it makes you kind of want to be like, yeah, it's nice to have a host who's doing his or her own thing. So I think it could be fun.
Definitely. And I want to, hop on a comment that he made, because it's always fun to, get the perspective of the person who is now knowing that they are going to be providing their hosting talents to the show, whether any award show, whether it's the Emmys or the Oscars, what have you. So in the story, as I said, again, hat tip to a Hollywood Reporter. It says, since I was a little boy huddled up next to my grandmother, television has always been my reliable friend. So it is an enormous honor for me to host this year's Emmy Awards. Throughout the roller coaster of a year, from my end, understatement, from the roller coaster of a year that we have lived through, television has helped us stay connected as a society like never before. It's only entertained us, but as it always has, it has helped open our eyes, educate us, and hopefully brought about a better understanding of who we are as a people. Again, the quote continues on again about him being extremely excited about being the host, but I would say, good on CBS on having, Cedric the Entertainer as the host, because, I think we spoke about this, slightly offline or briefly offline, is, it's always great to have major figures as your hosts, and it's not always common to always have people of color to be in those positions, and to have it on a frequent basis and on that stage. So I love Cedric the Entertainer is awesome, and the fact that we're going to have him as the host of the Primetime Emmys, I'm super excited about. So I'm looking forward to the show come September. Do you have any other final thoughts before we move on to our next story?
No, I mean, definitely echo the same thing. So this would be interesting if I like how they, with his comedy style and what they add to it, because I feel like that influences the show. Because I always said, who I'd really want to see host at least the Oscars. I want to see Jamie Foxx host the Oscars, just because of all the impressions he can do, and he can like make fun of a whole bunch of like the A-list actors. So that would obviously come into play if he was the host. So Cedric, I mean, he has his own style, so you'll see. He'll do, he'll use his style to, amplify the experience and make it his own. But yeah, that's what you get when you hire a certain talent. You'll get their style, you get their creativity and what they bring to the table. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So.
I was gonna say, especially with him, he's not going to hold any punches. I mean, Don't get me wrong. We've had guests. I'm brain farting on the comedian's name. I feel bad because he normally hosts a lot of the award shows that we have not from our Office series, but from the original Office series.
Ricky Gervais.
Yeah. Like he's
Golden Globes.
very
like
I know, but I'm saying still like his comedy is very corrosive, but it's still hilarious. And in the same way, Cedric the Entertainer is, he doesn't pull any punches with his comedy, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that will play on with the Primetime Emmy show. So as I said, super excited and looking forward to what comes of it. So with that being said, switching gears and still staying on the topic of the Emmys, we had the announcement of the noms that we have for the Primetime Emmys. So for this year, it was announced on Tuesday. So we had the announcement of our hosts on Monday. And as I said, Tuesday, we got the breakdown of many of our noms. There were so many interesting components to or factors that played into the noms this year and who we heard receive those noms, one thing that comes to mind, and I know we again, something that we were talking about off stage is how impressive it was to see that there was an acknowledgement of the Disney Plus shows, especially the Marvel shows. You know, a lot of times in the past, there's kind of been a discrimination is, I feel like, is not the right word, but it just feels like there's kind of a look of superhero fare is
Like a
not,
stigma
yeah,
almost.
a stigma. Yeah, that, I guess that would be a better word of kind of looking down upon the superhero genre and not, you know, really appreciating what it has to offer. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have a couple of asterisks in there of actors that have been awarded Oscars and been awarded other, you know, prestigious awards. However, to have this many nominations is quite incredible. And I mean, there are others that are in there, but punting the ball over to you, you know, what are some other historical components of that were interesting in terms of who was nominated?
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that was the most impressive thing too. I mean, was it like 28 combined
28,
nominations for WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier? I mean, and those are, like I said, those are the first shows that they produced for Disney
right?
Plus. So that's
Right.
pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That Marvel did. And it shows that the style of WandaVision kind of paid off too, because I mean, it was an homage to, you know, sitcoms going from different generations. So yeah, that probably paid off too. Now, I mean, we'll see how many they win, but it just getting nominated is, I mean, being in the conversation is always important. But yeah, there were some what's it called? There were some historic nominations too. I mean, you have MJ Rodriguez in Pose was the first time a trans woman has ever been nominated in leading actress, so that's big. And Rosie Perez is the third Latina actress to receive a nomination in the supporting comedy actress category for a role in HBO Max's The Flight Attendant. And let's see, Bowen Yang became the first Chinese American man to be nominated for the supporting actor category. And yeah, I mean, so that's good. It's just showing, like, I mean, it's a continuation kind of what, you know, we were seeing in the Oscars, at the Oscars and the Golden Globes. And it's always important. So yeah, Emmys are just as important, or because TV is so widespread and so important now. I mean, a lot of people watch TV shows because there's so many great ones. Being recognized is important. So yeah, it's good that they're doing this. I feel like the Emmys have kind of been maybe more progressive to a certain extent than maybe like the Oscars or maybe the Golden Globes. But yeah, I feel like they're all trying to catch up to each other or outdo each other now, and that's a good thing in this category. And these aspects of choosing the nominees and the winners. So, but it'll be interesting to see who wins though. So, but I'm proud of Marvel and these historic noms. It's definitely a good thing for the industry.
Definitely. And I would just hop off of, you know, what you said, just to have, and we've done a couple of in the last, I feel like the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes, we've talked about the efforts of trying to improve upon diversity and improve upon inclusion and you know, having all types of figures that represent, you know, how our world is today, and to see more of that and to see a more confirmation of that with these noms is always a great thing to see. So hopefully we can continue on that momentum and continue to have a lot of these nominations happen to the point where we don't have to, you know, make a comment of how historical it is. It's just commonplace, and it's just a regular thing that happens, and is really solely based on talent and being able to continue to have a diversity and recognize everyone in their talents. So, like I said, good on them to have to recognize the talents across the board and to make some historical to make some historical nominations that that haven't been common, but hopefully, as I said, that momentum continues in it, and we don't have to make a big deal about how common it is, and just celebrate that we continue to have it. So with that being said, switching gears to the news of another award show. Over the course of this week, there was information that dropped about the Art Directors Guild Awards. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the Art Directors Guild, the Art Directors Guild essentially deals with recognizing the excellence in production design, in theatrical motion pictures, television, commercials, animated features, music videos, what have you. Just appreciating a lot of that world building that we kind of take for granted when we're looking at anything, whether it's on a small screen or on a large screen. And so before, it was done obviously virtually with everything that was going on with the pandemic. However, this not this year, but in 2022, they're actually going to have the show on March 5th, 2022 for its 26th annual show. The location right now is still yet to be confirmed, but considering just like we were talking about in the prior story with our Emmy hosts and the idea that we will start to see a slight transition into that normalcy of having folks in person and having a live show. What are your thoughts, Jerome, on hearing about this show and the fact that it is we're starting to see that progression back to normalcy of seeing them with a live show versus the virtual shows that we have seen with many of our award shows?
Yeah, I mean, that's good. I mean, it's great when we can get back to normal as much as possible. And it's funny, I wasn't really as familiar with the Art Directors Guild awards, even though it makes sense. I mean, they all have award ceremonies, so I mean, I just never really paid attention to them. But I think it's important for people to to honor everyone in their craft, because I mean, that's what it takes to make a movie. I mean, you can't. It's not obviously it's the director and writer's visions, you could say, and the producers, like the manager managing everything. But then you have to have all your craftsmen and the heads of all those departments execute, and art direction is just as important as like cinematography and sound editing and sound recording and stunts. I mean, any facet you could think of, visual effects. Like if your production design doesn't look amazing, or your art direction isn't amazing, like it's going to be hard to believe that your characters are living or interacting in whatever location you're claiming it to be in your final product. So and I think sometimes, depending on the movie or the show, people don't always realize how much is put into that, like unless it's usually like something really futuristic or maybe something historical. But even just something that's simple, like like just picking certain like apartments or whatever, like, and how everything's sorted out in the background, like, and from wardrobe. I mean, wardrobe separate, but like still, like all of that, like that's all part of representing a character and the storyline and just the style of a film or TV show, or on the short end, like if it's commercials or music videos. So all of that stuff is important, especially music videos. There's a lot of really interesting, really fun and visually pleasing art direction, just to stand out too. So so that's cool though. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, it's interesting to see what movies are nominated and win.
And I was going to say another interesting component of that. I know, and you were commenting on just now, but it's interesting, from production to production. A lot of times I feel people I hate to say it, a lot of people sleep on this discipline and kind of underestimate how much with many productions, even in lieu of household name directors or household name screenwriters, what have you, other figures that a lot of times get the credit for a lot of these projects is they really do rely on their art directors to be able to collaborate with them and to create that world that they want for a given project. And a lot of times our filmmakers, our screenwriters, they will purposely go after certain art directors and recruit them for their projects for the sole reason of understanding what they bring to the table in terms of like the aesthetic style that they have in a given project. Just thinking a case in point of examples of how important art direction can be. What would Black Panther be without the look of Wakanda? You know, what would Captain America be without the look of that historical period? What would Guardians of the Galaxy look like without kind of that futuristic feel of that kind of lived in aesthetic that you have, for example, with Star-Lord's ship? Like you get, when you look into the interiors of that ship, you get the feeling that he lives out of that ship. And there's something to be said about that in terms of the talents that art direction can play in that, and our art directors can do with that. So it'll be very interesting to check out that show, and to I look forward to seeing who we have nominated for that show and what comes of it, because we have some very extremely talented art directors out there in terms of the talents that they bring, and it's always great to be able to recognize that talent and how much of an impact and an influence it has on the entertainment that we enjoy. So any other thoughts before we hop into our next story? Because we want to hop into some casting news, guys. But yes.
I would just, I mean, I'd echo everything you said, and I would add, like Terminator 2. If you look at the future, I mean, that's how the futuristic scenes and everything. And I mean, there's so many iconic films and shows that really, I mean, anything with Star Wars. I mean, even with The Mandalorian, even if they're shooting it, how they shoot it with the, what's it called again? The,
I know what you're talking about.
The game engine, the screencraft and the volume. Yeah, even with all that, like they still have to have art direction. It's like they film it with the volume technology, but also they use art direction, production design to complement it too. So, and that has to be unique to whatever planet that they're filming in. So all of that stuff is so important. I mean, and then like we were saying, period pieces, to make a period piece look really authentic. I mean, there's a lot of research done into making that happen, and from wardrobe to like the scenery, the houses, whatever, the cars. I mean, turning New York City. Aesthetic. I remember like turning New York City in 2007, 2008 to look like how American Gangster turned it. I mean, I was like, it's interesting. You got to get the right cars. So. All those details are important. So it's very important. So
I mean, I'll never forget too. This was years back. As a matter of fact, it was now that I think about it, it was my first year covering Comic-Con as media, and I had an opportunity to speak with a couple of guests that were a part of the ADG, and we have folks that did all types of shows. One of them that comes to mind immediately in thinking back is True Blood, and how specific the language of how that show looks, with the setting that you have with that show, and all the elements of it, whether it's the bar where a lot of our action takes place out of, or even some of the households of many of the characters. So like, yeah, people, like I said, take it for granted, but it's such a major component of what it is that we enjoy on the screen, be it small screen or large screen. But as I said, next couple of stories are casting related, and I'll hop into the first one that made the rounds this week. It deals with one of my favorite shows that have since ended, but is now making a return, and that is the show Dexter, the Showtime series Dexter. So this week we received news that Jennifer Carpenter, who many will recall played Dexter's sister, will be making a return to the show. Now, I will put this disclaimer
Are
up
you,
before.
are you gonna put spoilers? Of course.
I'm
It's
gonna
like,
put.
come
I
on,
have, I have to put.
y'all still haven't
I
watched
have
the
to put
show
it up
now. Come
there.
on.
Sorry, but
It's like,
for those of you that watch the show, just as a quick reminder, the thing that is interesting about this is that her character dies in this show. So it brings up the question of how they're going to bring her back. I know there's been in this story that made the rounds this week. It still hasn't been confirmed as to how she'll factor in. My guess is that similar to James Remar's character, who many will remember played Dexter's dad on the show. He acted kind of, I guess you could say, his inner monologue or a representation of his inner monologue, who he would have conversations with that no one else would see, but only Dexter would see. Perhaps they're doing the same thing with Deb. So it would be interesting to see that. And considering that this is kind of, I guess you can kind of call it a sequel series to the original series, revival, sequel series, what have you. If James Remar is not making a return, then she would be an adequate, I feel, replacement if he doesn't factor into those dialogue conversations. She would be an interesting replacement for him. So what are your thoughts on this, Jerome?
yeah, I mean, not something I expected, but I mean, you can, I mean, they can do that in this show, I guess, with, like I said, if it's flashbacks or if she's gonna, like you were saying, we were talking about how like, she could be one of the voices of reason that, or, instead of the James Remar character. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, it's going to be something like that because the show isn't a supernatural show. So, but yeah, I mean, hey, I mean, I guess the most important thing really is the original showrunner coming back to finish this revival season. I guess it's a 10 episode like final season or something or revival. So I guess he's gonna end it the way I guess maybe he maybe originally wanted to end it. I don't know, but I'm excited to see it. I mean, it's not something I even really thought about happening or needing, but I'm a big fan of the show, so I'll watch it.
For sure. So with that being said, like I said, I've said everything that my thoughts on it. It was interesting to hear this news this week because, as I said, the what we know about how the prior season or the prior series ended, it will be interesting to see how they build upon that. I mean, there are a lot of dangling threads. What happened to Dexter's son? What happened to the character? I'm brain farting on her name, but his love interest or his fellow
Yvonne
partner in crime.
Strahovski, the
Yeah,
actress.
yeah, who
Yvonne,
he left.
she's
Yeah, who he
good.
left the son with. So
Yeah.
you have that element in there as well. I know a lot of thoughts that have been going out there is, okay, if we're bringing back Jennifer Carpenter, and apparently John Lithgow is coming back, who was a major villain in the season, among the seasons of Dexter, prior seasons of Dexter. Does that mean other characters can come back? Does that mean that his wife can come back, in some form? Are they going to have her come back in a flashback? Like, the possibilities are endless if you're bringing back Carpenter at this point on top of John Lithgow. So very intrigued by the idea that she is coming back and look forward to what they have in store for us. All right. So with that being said, as I said, these next couple of stories are casting heavy. So the next story that we had regards the upcoming Indiana Jones film. This week we received news that none other than Antonio Banderas will be joining the cast of Indy 5. So you hear this, Jerome. What are your thoughts on it? Please share.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because that's why I was like, yeah, let's might as well talk about it. I mean, it just surprised me. It was like Antonio Banderas, but I mean, yeah, I mean, he's good at playing characters in different time periods really well. I mean, he's a really great actor, and they add. I guess there's no details about the plot. I'm assuming I haven't read anything, but
Yeah, I believe it's still under wraps at this point. So I mean, just speculating. What are your thoughts on who he might
Well,
be playing?
but what's interesting, I'll give Antonio Banderas credit because it's like, I mean, a lot of times he plays obviously like he'll play like a Spanish character or Mexican, Desperado is a Mexican character. But if you watch the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, he was playing like a Greek character. So it's like he's starting to play different ethnicities too. Like I don't remember him playing some other ethnicities like that. He probably has. I don't remember. But he's I mean, and he's playing bad guy. He's playing villain roles now too. So who knows? But I mean, he's a great actor, and I love some of his movies that he's been in. So I'm just curious to know really what I don't know. It could be a villain, could be one of another, I don't know, professor. Maybe. I mean, who knows? But James Mangold, he's like a really good director. So I think I think that's like the bigger challenge, like because he's a great director, but he's still trying to, he has to fill Spielberg's shoes for this installment. But I think he can do it because he's proven himself as such a versatile director with all the different types of films he's directed. So, but yeah, this was kind of a surprise to me. It's like usually you think a lot of times you hear the big name talent being, that information usually being released earlier when they mention most of the other big name talent in a film. But I guess it's still trickling in. I mean.
For sure. And I guess the thing, I mean, you brought up most of the points already. He is so versatile in terms of characters that he has played, and he can do good guys, he can do bad guys. So it will be interesting to me whatever component he would be playing. So it in that way, because just like Harrison Ford, he's a capable, action star too. So if he is in fact going to be a villain, then, he is someone that could logically go up against Harrison Ford. Like he can hold his own and go up against Harrison Ford as an action figure. So with that being said, it's interesting that, I mean, even outside of Antonio Banderas, because I didn't even bring this up, you have Holbrook as well, Boyd Holbrook, who many people, you might remember him from Narcos, you might remember him from Logan. He was in The Predator. Like I know a lot of people, sleep on The Predator, but like I have that film has a special place in my heart. I did enjoy that film, even though many people did not enjoy that of the Predator franchise. But if it's on TV, like I enjoy watching it. So I love that kind of that dynamic that they have with all the various characters, with Thomas Jane's character and all the other ones that were in there, and some of the nice Easter eggs from other Predator films that they have, with having the Gary Busey's son play his character from the son of his character from Predator 2. So like all those like small, all those like cool Easter eggs. It was like, let's see what you did there. Don't get me wrong, there's some elements of it was like, oh man, I wish he didn't go there where it was. Unfortunate, but overall, like I enjoyed it a lot. So but yeah, he has James Mangold, as you said, he, in terms of his eye as a director and what he gets out of his actors in his films is quite extraordinary. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what he brings to this new indie film. So any final thoughts before we?
That's not an indie.
Indie, you know what I mean?
No. I'm saying it's an indie film. That's not an indie. It's a big
indie. Exactly. No pun intended.
Play on word. Pun intended.
There you go. All right, but switching gears, as I said, those were our two, major casting related news bits that made the rounds this week. Switching gears a bit in the world of business. This week, it also was revealed that Cali, so the state of California, is looking to increase their film and TV tax credits by $330 million. There's some interesting components to this for sure, seeing that a good portion of it, I understand, so about 150 million of it would be designated for soundstage construction in the state. Because I mean, I wasn't aware of this, but there is a need for more production space, as it's still that space that is now available is currently limited, and additional facilities are needed. So you hear this, Jerome. What are your thoughts on this amount of investment being used to fund the film and to help along, I should say, the film and TV industry?
No, I mean, it's great. I mean, basically they're trying to bring production back to LA because a lot of it left to go to Georgia, and obviously there's you still have a lot of production like Toronto or Vancouver and a lot of other places outside of LA, obviously. I mean, and it's usually because of the tax credits, the tax incentives. So it's no, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, that they're adding more. I mean, I also think Gavin Newsom, because I mean, even though there's that ridiculous recall election, but I know why, for whatever reason, how that's going on. I'm sure this is also one of the reasons why he probably pushed for this too. But there's what is it? An additional $330 million, $150 million is for the soundstage. For soundstage construction, so that's pretty big. Because that'll also bring a lot of jobs for a while to build those. And I mean, but what's funny about this story, I mean, is that when I was reading that, I didn't know it was. I mean, of course, California is such a big state, so that they had like a $75 billion budget surplus. You would think that they would give even more to
that. Yeah, that was incredible.
But they have. I mean, there's a lot of incentives and benefits and programs that they have in California. So I guess, I mean, it's better than nothing, but they're definitely looking to ramp up more production and have more projects filmed in LA and California in general. So this is good for the industry overall. So you'll probably be seeing a lot more films that were shot in LA now.
For sure. And as I said, the thing that I found most fascinating, I mean, I guess it makes sense that there is a limited amount of space, but you think to yourself, okay, this is the entertainment capital of the world. You would think that the idea is that they are continuing to build upon that, but it was interesting to hear that component of them saying that no, like there's a need to build more, and there's help that's needed in order to build more to really meet that demand. But if you think of it in the other way, I guess I suppose it does make sense that it's growing so rapidly that there is a hunger to or a need to further expand. But as I said, interesting story nonetheless, and that amount of investment is fascinating to hear. So switching gears, and now we'll punt the ball over to you, Jerome. They had the story this week that Lionsgate would be acquiring 20% of Spyglass Media.
Yeah, I thought this was definitely an important story because, obviously Lionsgate is a big company. They have a lot of properties, and Spyglass has a lot of films in their library. They get a 20%. So basically the story is saying that, Lionsgate gets a 20% investment stake in Spyglass. And, the major assets that they include, are like the latest installment of Scream, the Upside, Project One Runway, the competition series, and the revival of the Hellraiser franchise. But also, a lot of critically acclaimed commercial blockbusters like Fruitvale Station, The King's Speech, we said Scream 4, Scary Movie 5, Spy Kids 4, Paddington, Silver Linings Playbook. So they have a lot of, and also, in the growing portfolio of Quentin Tarantino titles like Django Unchained, Glorious Bastards, The Hateful Eight. So all of those movies are significant, and that's a big deal. So it just shows how you see more consolidation or investment in other media companies with vast libraries, and how valuable that has I mean, it's valuable, but it's become more valuable now with, different companies getting into streaming and needing more content, a larger library. And, there's, you'll just see more of these types of deals happening and investment because of the need for all these different types of movies and TV shows and just different content that people need for their networks or their streaming companies. And I remember there was some story talking about like A24 was looking at possibly selling for like $1 billion or something. So I mean, even it's pretty incredible though seeing these different stories, because you're like, wow, you have a vast library of films, even if they're not as big budget. It could, like I said, A24 does a lot of independent films, smaller films. So for them to be supposedly valued at having a valuation of at least like $1 billion is also pretty incredible. So it just shows like, yeah, you have a good library, good amount of content that people that have classics that people enjoyed, people want to watch. I mean, eventually someone's going to want to either buy you out or invest in your company. And that's what exactly is happening with this story right here.
For sure. And I mean, you pretty much summed up everything, that my thoughts on it in terms of this story. So we will switch gears in that regard. So I will switch it on to an interesting story that did make the rounds this week, and I guess you can say it is business related, but it provides a picture for us of what could happen going forward as a president of just business practices and what can potentially happen in the course of providing content or doing content, whether it's on film or whether it's on TV. So this week there was news regarding the Walking Dead lawsuit, and news came that they had reached a settlement in the avenue of $200 million. So Jerome, I'll let you start us off on the story, and then I'll share my thoughts on it. But go ahead.
Yeah, I just thought it was pertinent to talk about this because I'm sure you've been hearing too. Like they've been going back and forth. It's been a while since Frank Darabont. He created he was one of the head creators of the show, and supposedly he wasn't getting the the royalties and the profit sharing that he was supposed to. So he sued them. I sued AMC for a while. And I guess they were going back and forth in court, and they had, if you're able to afford the lawyers to keep pushing, I mean, it's sad that that's what it is, but that's what you have to do sometimes. And eventually they got a settlement. He got a settlement, and I mean, 200 million is amazing. Plus future revenue sharing related to certain future streaming exhibition, The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking. So I mean, it's big because I mean that's the thing. Like you got to realize. I just think it's important. Because you got to realize, like, making sure that you have the right entertainment lawyer, you have the right agent, and you're negotiating the right deal, and you're getting the wording on your contracts and everything is
solid.
Is solid to the point where it's really going to protect you, and you get what you need. Otherwise, you're gonna have to go to court, but. It's good to see stuff like this happen. Like I said, I don't have any interest in this case at all, or anything like that. I don't know Frank Darabont or anything, but just from an outside perspective, based on the information I'm seeing publicly in these articles, if that was the case and he got a settlement for that amount of money, I mean, that's a win. To me, that's a win for a creator, anyone who's a creator and has, intellectual property that they co-produce or they start with a big entity like either a TV a TV network or a movie studio, then get what they were due. Because I do know directors. I know at least one director who like he got a pretty good amount of money at first to get his film acquired, and it was at Sundance and everything, and then it did pretty well at the box office. But I mean, that's also his perspective. Like I'm not gonna mention names, but he was like, he knew that he should have gotten more money from it, but some of the accounting practices or whatever of of the studio made it like, oh, okay, well, no, you're not, you have to pay for these expenses. Now, I'm not saying like that could be in the contract, but sometimes stuff like that can happen where, or maybe,
and it is,
and it does
because like,
happen.
I mean, there are
So,
instances, I mean, I would have to look back on it, but if I recall, in terms of instances like that, of hearing about, films being acquired and helping them reach other audiences and other territories, you'll come across when, like, say if a film is getting a what is it, a distributor, or getting, someone who can take it and put it in front of, other territories, excuse me, I gotta speak today, other territories and markets. You come across two types of agreements. You have the type that many of them do, which is, like you said, there's like a upfront, payout that you're given, and then after that, like a lot of what happens after the fact, goes doesn't go to the, the original creator. And then you have, the type that, most people, assume they're going to get or would like to have, which is, it's a steady payout that you're getting over that entire lifetime, or over that, stretched over a period of time, versus just getting, something up front and not receiving anything afterwards. So it is so important to be a stickler and to be wary of
how it's
what it is
structured
that,
too.
yeah.
Because
Exactly.
I'll say, like, if you look at a lot of the big actors, especially like we go back to Marvel, I mean, a lot of those movies, like, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. made so much money off of like the Avengers films and everything, because I think from his deal and some other of the other actors, like, he would get his back end, but up front, like when the movie starts grossing money, like I think his amount, I mean, don't completely quote me on this, but I know it's something like he would get it off the gross as opposed to after certain people are paid. So that's what I'm saying. Like, certain actors, they can put that in their contract with their agent, be like, hey, yeah, maybe I'm not getting as much up front, or maybe get a decent amount, but then, we know it's going to make a lot of money at the box office. So let me get my percentage, a good percentage of that, and then off the top, as opposed to after, a certain, the production budget or marketing expenses have been recouped. Because sometimes, like, it'll take a while, or even before a movie is like a super hit, a big hit at the box office, those, it's like some of the actors, and obviously if there's investors, they're going to get their money first. And then, that's why like a movie like In the Heights, I know that I was in certain clubhouse rooms talking, they had different entertainment lawyers in there. And, just reading about it, the idea of that movie, they spent like $50 million on the budget. But because it didn't stream because it was coming out in theaters and streaming on HBO Max, that was going to hamper the box office. And I think it really did. Like, if you look at the grosses, I don't think it hasn't made as much money as it probably could have. But the studio had to keep John M. Chu and Lin-Manuel Miranda happy by paying them whatever. They had to pay them like an upfront bonus, to make that deal, because they would have gotten more money off of the, the box office gross. So that means that movie has to make around like I was hearing an estimate is about like 200 million at the box office to be considered a hit, because you got to remember, like, there's also marketing costs and P&A, and what's it called? The theaters, they get about, in the end, theaters get about like 50% of the gross. So that's why, like, they say movie makes, they're saying 200 million. That means after, it would really make around like 100 million. And then if you include marketing costs or whatever. So that kind of gives you an idea, like, hey, if a movie that costs 50 million, has to make 200 million at the box office, well, some of that has to do with like some of the residuals that the filmmakers or maybe the actors are getting. And think about, like, with the Marvel movies, when they're spending like 200 million, 250 million, that's why when they keep making like $1 billion internationally or whatever, like, they're obviously recouping their expenses. But some of those actors, like Robert Downey Jr., like, some of them, they're getting their money first. And that means you have a good agent, good lawyer, and, those are the types of deals you want to get. So, yeah, Frank Darabont, You know, I think
And I was gonna say, unfortunately,
he succeeded. In this case.
unfortunately, you get these horror stories. It's always great to see that it comes out, and maybe not for all parties involved. It feels like that way, but at least on a matter of principle of the fact of his efforts and his influence on that show, and jump starting that show. That it is being recognized, and that he is, as you said, getting his due. Because I think if we're talking about thinking of some deja vu of talking about producers and those getting their due and being recognized, it makes me think back of a prior story of talking about. I remember it was one of your shows where the what is it, the husband and wife team, they were moving at 8-9 figures. Yeah. So that is the ideal. You want to be able to have stories like that, but unfortunately on occasion you get the story where that doesn't happen, and it has to be placed in front of a judge in order for it to get the desired outcome.
But I will say also, it's like I said, I don't know. I mean, disclaimer: we don't know all the details to everything, so we're also kind of speculating, based on what we're hearing
from the outside on paper.
Yeah, but I will say also, because in the music industry too, like they're notorious for ripping people off really badly, and even when Kanye West
and again, it goes back to what's in the contract. But
that's what I was trying to get at.
Contract, and being able to break it down and read it. So
that's what I was getting at. Sometimes, like I said, I'm not here to be take sides and be like, hey, Frank Darabont, he was completely right or whatever. I don't know all the details, but obviously, apparently, he got a good settlement. So if his case obviously was strong enough to get that, but I do know, in the music industry, because I've also worked in the music industry for a little bit, and I have a lot of friends in that, and also just talking to entertainment lawyers, sometimes artists they might get mad about their contract, but like we were saying, did they really read? Did they read it? Did they, some of these contracts, it says what it's supposed to be. That's why you have to have a really good lawyer look at it, and
you have to be able
if you don't revise it or change it or have it to really help you.
And know the language that's in there,
yeah, sure. And know what kind of deal you're getting. You're going to get screwed. You're going to be in a really bad place once the money starts coming in. That's why someone like Master P, who's a genius at independent, music production and just when he had his label. He had the distribution deal with, he was getting it was 85%. It was distribution deal. 15% went to Priority or whatever, the company that was distributing it. And then, what's it called? Then he got 85%. You got to get 85%. And then I think they made a deal where it's they gave him he gave him additional 5%, and they would give him money for marketing promotions. And that's the thing. It's that's why Master P made so much money from music, because he was keeping most of that money, as opposed to if you were signed to a major record deal. You might get a really, Master P is was making probably around $8 for every CD sold for $10 or whatever from back in the day. Other artists might have been making less than $1. So you just go figure, do the math, but that has to do with your deal, how much leverage you have, your lawyer, and knowing these deals and knowing what you can, what you could take advantage of. So that I'll just put that out there. People, the industry can kind of screw you in certain areas, but that's why you have to have a really good entertainment lawyer, a really good agent, and you have to read that really, really know what's in your contract and know how it's going to benefit you, and make sure that it's in your best interest as much as possible. It should be in everyone's best interest, but people can get screwed.
Doesn't always happen that way.
And it's sad. It is just sad. And I will be frank. It is true. If you come into the industry and you're trying to make a deal, you have less leverage, but still, you try to get the best deal from wherever you're at, as much as you can. And then the next one should be better. But it's crazy when you hear some of these stories, but hey, it's interesting to see someone actually succeeding.
For sure.
Because a lot of times you can sue it. It's once you run out of money, you're done.
Yeah. So With that being said, hop into our final, news bit that we had for this week in review, and that is regarding Instagram and Facebook. There was a story this week that made the rounds stating that Instagram and Facebook would pay out creators $1 billion through 2022. So you guys are probably wondering, what do you mean by that? Okay, well, just to go into further detail, Facebook will be pushing to dole out cash to creators, which many people are stating it may be a PR effort to counteract a lot of obviously the negative attention they've been receiving in the last year and a half over the course of this pandemic with a lot of the things that have happened. But you hear this, and as folks that are creators, what are your thoughts on this, Jerome? That there will be efforts made in order to ensure that creators are properly compensated for their what they bring to the table.
Yeah, I thought it was good because it just shows that they're investing in their creators who are driving a lot of the content, and making people want to keep going to Facebook or Instagram. And I'll be honest, and we've talked about this several times. It's like it kind of sucks, but I get why they do it. Some of these thresholds were a lot less back in the day. Like let's be honest. Like even with YouTube. Hey, we love YouTube, we're on it, but I don't think back in the day you had to have 1,000 followers to join the YouTube partnership program. And the same with the watching hours. Like that's they added stuff, I guess, because you have more people on there. They need to be strategic in how they limit stuff for whatever's going to help them, profit the most. Same
and then
with
I was going to
Facebook.
say to add to that, the other component of that is, when you are for a lot of creators, because I hear this all the time too, you're like, oh, they're about to reach that those prerequisites,
yeah,
and then it gets changed to something else. So
so it's like that. This constantly happens. So it's like, and I know Facebook has. I don't know what Facebook had before and the algorithms, and what the stipulations were to start getting paid. I know we're trying to reach certain thresholds so we can do that, but yeah, I don't know how that was before, but. It is nice that they're including this thing called this in-stream bonus. I was reading here that pays an earnings bonus over the next 4 months to select video creators who use in-stream ads. And then they're also they're expanding the recently announced star challenges to include select gaming creators. Participating video and gaming creators will receive a monthly bonus for hitting specific stars earnings milestones over the next 3 months. And then on Instagram, they have the IGTV ad bonus. As bonus, available now by invitation to creators in the U.S. Lets creators earn a one-time bonus for signing up for IGTV ads.
Yeah,
which enables them to earn a share of revenue when ads run against their video. So the badges and Instagram Live bonus available now by invitation to creators in 11 countries. It rewards creators when they meet certain milestones with badges, such as going live with another account. So it's just good that they're having bonuses or whatever. Because like I said, I don't know about you also, but I haven't always been creating stuff using these platforms like this. And now that we're really doing it hardcore, it's like, it is interesting seeing or hearing from other people who've done it before and what it was before and how it changed. And, you just have to adapt and figure it out. But if they're going to, if these big companies want to dilute some of the earnings you're getting or what the split is and the residuals, then they might as well have bonuses or something, add to it. So it can kind of compensate for that or just entice, persuade people to want to get on their platform. Because you have other, I know we talked about this before. I'm not a fan of TikTok. I don't know. But right now TikTok is one of the easiest places to I think get into the natural algorithm to build followers maybe quicker. But there's certain videos people put on there, dance videos, whatever. And that's not really our thing, but that's why people are going over there for certain things or certain audiences over there, like a younger generation, and it's big. Who knows what other platform, now there's, like I said, there's Clubhouse, and then there's imitators of Clubhouse. Also, I think there's the Green Room or whatever. Clubhouse has been a place where it's all audio and people are on there and people are finding ways to build their following from there and transferring it to Instagram or whatever. So, there's all these different apps that are starting certain things, and you jump on and then you make the most of it. But there's going to be changes, so it's always nice when with some of the, I guess we could say, legacy online platforms are adding nice incentives to want to stay on there, because like I said, they're constantly having competition, and unless they buy the new company that's competing with them or whatever, they're going to have to do something to retain their followers and their subscribers and their, and their creators, as opposed to just watch them go somewhere else. So I just think it's important that these big tech companies do that, because, hey, there's several platforms out there, so.
Definitely. And just like you said, with all the things that creators have to deal with of hitting their necessary prerequisites, and then starting sometimes from scratch when new ones are made. I know it's sometimes for many creators, it's been shared with me, how that can be frustrating. So it's great to hear something like this where there are more ways and opportunities to be able to generate revenue from your efforts. Again, going back to what we were talking about, even just in the last story. So not obviously not at that that severe of a level where we're talking about millions upon millions of dollars, but still it's still your efforts and what you bring to the table. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for enjoying this episode of This Week in Review. Jerome, send us off, and then I have a couple of announcements.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for watching and checking us out. I mean, if you want to definitely follow me right here. JW Bourgeois 21. That's on Twitter and Instagram. And also you can follow, subscribe to us on YouTube, which is Movers Shakers, youtube.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. On Twitter and Facebook, it's Move and Shake UNLTD. And if you want to support us, you're a super fan, you want to just support us when it comes to creating this great content for you guys, you can check out our Patreon page. I know Brandon put up there earlier, patreon.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. And we love bringing you this content every week. So we look forward to seeing you guys, next week. And you can take it back.
For sure. So as I said, there are a couple of announcements that I want to get into. I always try to make a point to use this show, This Week in Review, to kind of comment on our series shows that we do, a lot of our discussion, analysis, breakdowns. And as you well know, we had the season finale of the series Loki on Disney Plus that happened this week. So we will be diving into that episode come tomorrow morning.
2 thumbs up.
Yes, come tomorrow morning. We will be doing a deep dive. And as you know, every single week I have two hosts that typically, well, 1 or 2 hosts, I'll say, that typically help me out in providing analysis as well as breakdowns. So this week, let me bring them up. This week, I am happy to announce that we have 2 awesome guest hosts with us. One, he is the host of the Mad Titan podcast, as well as he is the co-host as well as the co-creator of Blurs in the Hood podcast. None other than Jay Washington will be joining us. Let me bring up that photo real quick. So yes, Jay Washington will be joining us as guest host number 1, and this week I will have 2. So not only will Jay Washington be joining us, but we will also have guest host Robert Meyer Burnett joining us as well. Many of you more than likely know him from the John Campea show as the co-host there. from Collider back in the day with their show, and obviously also with his Rob Servations show that he does as well. So make sure that you are joining us for that breakdown that we are doing for the Loki series. As I said, that will be happening tomorrow. It will be happening at 11 a.m. I should say Eastern Standard Time and 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you are joining us. We will be doing the show live via our YouTube channel, and again, we will be breaking down the season finale of season 1. So it should be a lot of fun. Another announcement that I want to get into, because it kind of snuck up on us, but I was still aware that it was on the way, is that this coming week we also have San Diego Comic-Con coming as well. Obviously not in the capacity that we're accustomed to of having it live in person, but it will be happening at home. And if you recall, last year I did a breakdown of the show, with a couple of friends, with a series that I had titled or made as SDCC Peeps. So going into many of the folks that I am fortunate to call friends, that I typically hang out with over the course of the con week. So that will be happening next week as well. And we will have a slew of guests between Friday and Sunday. Because as you well know, well, perhaps you don't know, typically San Diego Comic-Con happens from Wednesday to Sunday. However, with the show that they are doing this year, the at-home edition that they're doing this year is running from Friday to Sunday. So we will be commencing on Friday. I will be throwing out official announcements of when you can see certain guests, a breakdown of all the guests that we will have. I will provide over the course of the week, so be on the lookout for that. Other than that, just as Jerome said, if you enjoy the show, of course, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that thumbs up button, and make sure that you're hitting that bell so that way you can be notified of our videos. Of course, find us on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited, and also on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD, as Jerome had mentioned before. Other than that, guys, again, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and otherwise, see you soon. Peace.